Hello and welcome to the Greenway Outdoors podcast. My name's Kyle.
I'm Ryan Parks.
I'm Wayne Credible, Senior Material Supervisor here.
And I'm Chris Bazzina. I'm the President and CEO of Savage.
And as you can tell, we are not in our studio right now. We are right on the ground floor at Savage Arms, and we spent the entire day making two guns. I want to kick it off with this because we got a lot of gun nerds that like the show. So this is the gun that Ryan and I both chose to make. It's in .308 caliber. It's called the 110 Ultralite. It's a beautiful gun, but talk a little bit about the features of it and why Savage made this gun. And also, what's unique about this gun too is it's kind of taking the industry by storm that a lot of people are moving to this kind of platform. A lot of gun manufacturers have started making it recently. Talk to me about this gun and why it's specifically great.
Yeah, what's really cool about this gun here is that, it really puts a lot of emphasis on, a lot of times when you're out doing long distance hunting, you're out in the mountains, you're carrying it 98% of the time, and then you're making that one shot, one ethical kill. So majority of the time is really just carrying it. So we really did a great job with this where it's got a, carbon fiber barrel, proof research carbon fiber barrel on it. It's got a great chassis that's, it's got carbon fiber, fore end and buttstock. The actual center section is magnesium on it, which is awesome. It's folding, it collapses really easy and well. Super smooth bolt. I mean, it's just an awesome product, that can fit well in your backpack, carries well. And when, it's time for business, it gets the job done with one shot.
I like the fact that I can fold it. So you can throw this like in your backpack, in your pack, be good to go. And then you press there, clicks right there, and then press right there, and then that clicks out. But from a functionality standpoint, I really like the pistol grip quite a bit too.
Yeah, real vertical pistol grip action. And again, yeah, just a great overall gun.
Then the second gun that we made was the KLYM. And I made this one in 300 Win Mag. And that was to have kind of a bigger caliber gun for part of the year, and then the smaller, the 308 for the rest of the stuff. Both very good rounds that a lot of people have used for a ton of time. Talk to me about the KLYM. Obviously, we got the carbon fiber and the pistol grip again. But this gun, I really thought I was gonna like the Ultralite way more, and then I was like, man, this gun is special.
Yeah, it's really got some really unique features, with the actual 3D printed center section here that's got the bonding of the carbon fiber, fore end buttstock, the actual quick QD locks on the front there, the adjustability is really cool. But again, it just gives you a very vertical pistol grip feel. And, when it's all said and done, it really comes down to, we have different products for different customers with their preference. I mean, it's got a little bit of a different grab to it.
Yeah,
and feel
it is
to it.
different.
It is very different, but again, it's user preference. And again, both great products, both designed for a specific intention. And 300 Win Mag's a great round for that gun.
Something I've noticed too with this gun, we were talking about, is like there wasn't metal reinforcement even where the screws go in. And I was talking to some of the engineers, and they said that, so typically when they would test the gun, they'd like pressure it up to like 3,000 PSI. And without metal, just using this the way that it is and screwing it in to the composite there, it was like hitting 4,500 or more. So it's actually stronger than putting in metal, and it weighs nothing. And I found that to be pretty fascinating. But both guns are pretty cool. Now, Savage has so many different guns for people to choose from. And I guess we'll get into the history a little bit of Savage, but with over 400 models or something, you were mentioning, and this guy right here, we walked around with him, knew every single employee by name and everything about him, knew every single part of what was happening. They were dropping pieces, and he knew what pieces were being dropped on the other side of the room by the sound. It was really impressive to get to walk around with someone who's been here for over 40 years?
40 years, it'll be 40 years this fall.
40 years this fall, knows every nook and cranny of this place. And when I was talking to him about the different processes and stuff like that, everything's so intricate, and he still memorizes it, but with so many different numbers and so many different SKUs and different options for clients. Number one, why does Savage choose to have that many SKUs? And number two, how difficult is it to kind of maintain that?
Sure. I mean, look, we choose to have all these different SKUs because the gun is such a personal, passionate product for an individual that not one size fits all. right? And there's so many different applications of what you're hunting, how you're shooting, whether it's target practice, whether it's big game hunting, whether it's just plinking in the backyard with your family, that, each particular model is designed for one of those segments of our product mix. So it really, just like there's, hundreds of different colors out there, we design these products to meet every person's individual, style that they have.
Right. And I think that that's important. When I look at buying a gun, you talk about how personal it is, and a lot of these things become heirlooms, right? They get passed on to their kids and grandkids and things like that. It's something people buy for life, and it is so personal. But at the same time, I guess for me, I like to know like about the processes and like kind of what you guys have done, and what have you done from the quality control standpoint? Because as I walk around and I meet all the employees, and we got to build these guns and go through that step process, it's like and I'll let you jump in and kind of explain a little bit more in depth, but it seems as though every process is like double checking the people before them. It's always looking back at the person before him. And a point you made was there's not a bunch of quality control people walking around. Instead,
I was just gonna say that.
It's everybody in the process.
Good. The one thing as you were walking around today, you'll notice there are no inspectors out on the floor. The operators are the inspectors, right? When you get your particular step of it, you're going to inspect it to make sure it's right before you move it on. The guy on the next step is going to do the same thing, so he's checking your work. And people generally, they care about what they're doing, and they want to make good product.
Yeah.
And, to add to that is, people make the product, not the product makes itself, right? So, yeah, we had great engineers that designed the product, but we have even better people out on the floor that are so passionate and care about what they do that they want to do a good job. They take pride in having this product made here in the US of A. They
Right.
take pride that they put something together that is going to become an heirloom, as you just mentioned. And it's really refreshing to have a great workforce that, that we work with every day, that just cares about what they do and they want to do a good job. And it's kind of a family culture that we cultivated here, where it's okay if the person before you, if they happen to make a mistake, they feel comfortable enough to say, hey, this isn't right, let's fix it. And so that's all we ask of our employees, and it shows in our product, right? The quality is top notch, the performance is top notch, and that's all because of our people who put this together day in and day out.
I think
that was one of the coolest parts, was going from station to station and talking to people about what their job is, and rather than them being like, yeah, well, this is what I do, it was, here's what I do, here's the science behind what I do, and that clear pride. They wanted you to be as excited about what they're doing as they are. And like, for example, I can't remember his name at the moment. The barrels. He was showing us how to drop.
Shepard Torres. Yeah, down at barrel straightening.
He loved what he does, and you can tell it's a piece of art for him, and he really takes pride in it.
Talking about pride in general is like American manufacturing too. You made a point yesterday, you kind of made the joke where you said, people say they want to buy American and that they buy American, and then they go to the store and then they don't, and then they leave and think that they made no difference, you know what I mean? But it does make a difference. And a lot of the competitors to Savage are not made in America. A lot of them aren't. So I guess talk to me about the American manufacturing and then kind of the spirit of the place.
Sure. So, we're very fortunate. Again, we've been in Westfield, Massachusetts since the late 50s. And it's really, it was relocated from Utica, New York, where Savage originated back in 1895. And they came out here for one simple reason. They wanted to be closer to the Connecticut gun valley that existed here. And so there's such a rich history of gun manufacturing in the Connecticut River Valley, with a number of other very well-known gun brands in this area. They wanted to relocate here because we had, great work ethic, a great set of resources and labor that's very qualified and understands how to make product as intricate and sophisticated as a firearm. So we've kind of built on that. I mean, we've spent a lot of time training our employees. I mean, some of the things that we've done in the past is, when we can't find enough qualified CNC machinists, we'll go out and we'll put together, we have a little program we call the Savage University, and we actually have a program we partner with a local technical college
Yeah.
right down the road, and we'll work with some of our employees to get trained in CNC machining, and pass that certificate. It's actual certificate program that we do. So we reinvest in our employees so they get trained the right way, so they make the best possible product for us.
Right. And obviously you guys have two incredibly high titles. What was your first position here?
I was a stockroom clerk. I just pushing parts around and delivering parts to different operations as they were needed.
What was your first position?
So I started here as the director of engineering.
Yeah. So, and everybody just continually moves up. That's one of the things that else I liked about it is it does create a culture, is like the people that care and continue to grow. And then you have that leadership from the top down. There was something that I heard one time that Donald Trump did every job inside his hotel. Like he did the janitor stuff, he did every position. And I think that makes a big difference as a leader, is doing every position in the company and then having that go back to your employees, because you've been there, right? You've definitely been there. You've been through it. Yeah, you held just about every position here. So I think that is really special too. And for me, I really care. I grew up in a household where my dad had, like, on the refrigerator a list of companies we weren't allowed to buy from, like fast food companies because they were anti-hunting, or you couldn't go here because they only use foreign products. And it became like a joke with the team. But I got like a refresher in that, like being around everyone here. It's like they really care about their job, they're defensive over their job, and they're really protective over what they're making. The one gentleman that we talked to who hand straightens the barrels, remind me of his name?
That was Shepard again.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's the one you brought up too. And him hand straightening every single barrel and showing us the process and still doing it by eye. You know, making sure it was perfect by eye and not just counting on a computer and hoping through and then not having the problem solved 100 pieces later because someone wasn't eyeing it. And I thought that was pretty special. And that guy, he's like, this is how you do it, this is how you do it right, this is where everyone messes up, this is what you gotta watch for. It's like, I'm really glad that was the guy touching my gun. You know what I mean? And I think that says a lot.
And I think, what we try to do is, you've been through the plant, you see we have, very modern, up-to-date, sophisticated machinery. And we also take a common sense approach to this, where we also use, very qualified, technical people to be able to make our product. So we kind of blend that high tech with artisan, craftsman mentality in building our product. And that is what we feel sets us apart from our competitors, is, we give it the human touch. Everything can't be put together on a CNC machine, on a computer. You got to have some human interface with it, because the product is interfaced by humans.
Right.
So if everything is, is on the computer, if everything is done, analytically or, theoretically on a computer, it doesn't always translate to a well-made product that's engineered by users like all of us.
And it also creates positions, which is great. But to your point, like, we went and saw, and I'm sure we'll show some B-roll stuff over the podcast, but the machine that sprays down the Cerakoting, it's like, that's a very technical, high-tech machine that does it exactly perfect, because that's the right way to do that job. And in the same sense, you guys have picked and chose the job.
Well,
that
on
makes
the
sense
same
for
sense too, that if that robot that's spraying those actions was to ever go down, both those operators that are in that cell, both of them are former automotive painters. So they have that skill there if we need it, and we will take advantage of it at times.
It's pretty special. It gives me like I probably sound like I'm trying to sell it too much, but it gives me like a warm feeling to know that there's all these people here that are Americans, that are making the product, that care about the product. And I mean, I've been shooting the stuff since I was a kid. My first deer was harvested with one. I mean, I've gone through the process and actually used it in the field. Now, you have one heck of an axis deer up in your office.
Yeah.
And what gun did you use? And tell
I
us a little bit,
used
because that is the biggest axis deer mount I've ever seen.
I've used the 110 Hunter and a 6.5 Creedmoor.
Okay, so there you go. There's your knockdown power in the 6.5 Creedmoor.
Right, it was one shot. The gentleman I was with, Steve Colaluca, who's our VP of Ops, yeah, same thing. He took his down one shot with a 6.5 Creedmoor.
What kind of hunting do you do?
So I do a lot of, turkey and deer hunting primarily.
How's your turkey season going so far?
This year, not so good. A couple of wet days here, but we still got another couple of weeks left of the season. Now we'll get one.
When's the season end here?
It ends right that weekend before Memorial Day.
Ours too. Yeah, I've had a couple terrible run-ins with turkeys this year. In Michigan, we just passed a law, and I've talked about it before, where we can't hunt coyotes anymore during the season because they're having pups. All the turkeys and stuff are dropping eggs right now. It's the #1 time you should be hunting coyotes. And I had 2 coyotes run off 2 different turkeys on me this year in the field. So I'm seeing the negative effects of that principle. I want to talk a little bit though about Savage's history. I was in the main lobby there, and there's a letter in there from Theodore Roosevelt, of all people, which is pretty special. Talk to us about the Savage development back from the 1800s until now.
Sure. Well, as we talked before, I mean, you know, the company Savage was founded by Arthur Savage, and founded in 1895, and he developed a lever action rifle from his own personal experiences. You know, he was a former, you know, a sheep herder. You know, he had a huge flock of sheep out in Australia, and you know, that 1895 model became the Model 99, which is a product that really catapulted Savage to becoming a great manufacturing company and well known in the firearms industry. But Savage has been involved in many different things over the years. You know, not only did they manufacture the Model 99, but they also were they were bidding on the government contract for an Army handgun, and that handgun was the Model 1911, that Colt manufacturing one. Savage Arms was the runner-up. We also had a model, the Model 1908, and unfortunately it was not chosen, though it performed very well. But throughout the history, Savage has also made other products. We were a contract manufacturer for during World War I for the British, making Lee Enfield rifles. We've made Browning machine guns during World War II to support the Army. I've done a little stint in manufacturing ammunition. And then going off the grid, you know, Savage was also known for making other products. The first motorized washing machine was made by Savage. There was a product called the Health Motor, which is something that you've probably seen in some old, you know, TV clips or whatnot from the 20s and 30s. That was a belt that would shake your backside around to kind of, you know, help you lose some weight.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, but yeah, I mean, Savage has just been around. And then, you know, going a little bit more current, you know, Savage was an industrial manufacturer that, you know, helped bring refrigeration to us, all of us. You know, during the 30s and 40s, they were a commercial refrigeration manufacturer where they actually manufactured refrigeration units that went into grocery stores.
Wow.
Well,
That's
which is
something
pretty amazing. Yeah, and then also, you know, Savage was an industrial manufacturer that made motorized lawnmowers. So, you know, Savage has made a lot of things, and they've taken their core competency, which is manufacturing, and applied it in other key areas of the market.
It's really interesting. A lot of people know this because it was somewhat public that Vista Group had acquired Savage at one point, and now it's not acquired by Savage. So what has the transition been during that period? Like, what has it been like? And I guess, like, kind of giving people the inside scoop on it.
Sure. You know what? So both Wayne and I were part of it, part of that transition. We became part of, it was ATK, which then became part of Vista back in 2012, 2013 timeframe. And they were nothing but good to us. We really can't complain about all the, you know, they helped us recapitalize the organization. They invested heavily in us. They supported us through and through. There was, you know, a different change in direction on their side where they needed to go in a different direction. We had an opportunity to part ways, which we did gracefully. They were very, very good with the transition. Yeah. And, you know, since that time, you know, we've been continuing to stay who we are, true to ourselves, true to the buying public. And, you know, we focus on the best possible product we can make, you know, regardless of cost.
When I was talking to people too, I think it's reassuring for a lot of those who've like bought Savage rifles, and like when you hear about companies being bought out or transferred or whatever else, it's like, well, what's the new quality now? You know, has that shooken up? But seeing that everybody's the same employees that have been through all the different steps, that you can feel pretty comfortable knowing that.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that we talk about a lot, and we have, you know, quarterly all hands meeting and whatnot, we always say how we are very fortunate and we are not making a tool we are making, you know, a device that creates memories. So, you know, so many of us have great memories, and the reason why firearms tend to be heirlooms is because you remember going out hunting with your grandfather or with your brother or, you know, with a relative or just a good friend, and you remember the quality time that you spent with that person. Yes, harvesting that animal was fantastic,
Sure.
or maybe it was the one that got away, but it was still the environment of having good friends and family, hanging around one another, enjoying good food, campfire, what have you. But that is the memory jostler right there.
Right.
It helps you remember that and all those great memories. And there are very few items that people buy today that create and, you know, bring that kind of memories to individuals.
I always say guns, cars, and smells are the memory triggers. Like, you know, like you get that one smell and it reminds you of your grandma's house when you were a kid or something like that, and that can trigger it. Guns, 100%, like what you said, as far as not only the customization, because like you were saying earlier about cars, like there's so many different models, colors, shades, and then people still want to tweak them and make them different. You know, put these rims on and personalize it and make it their own. But with the gun, like every gun that I see, it triggers what I did with it, and it's like, oh yeah, with that gun eye, you know, I got my first Bison with it was a 110 Classic, you know, one of the wood ones, and that was, you know, so when I look at that gun, that's the first thing I think of. That and the Hawaii trip when we got access deer there the one time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what that is for me. I would like to talk to people too, specifically about the 110 and specifically about the Renegade. When people are looking, a lot of people look to us for information on why they should buy specific guns, and a lot of times people, this is a big purchase. It's not a small purchase for people. $2,000 for some things, you know, or $1,000 or $500 even. These are big purchases for people. So I want to talk specifically about why the 110 action and why that is why I've, you know, leaned on it so much, and also the Renegade, because I don't think until you shoot and hold the Renegade you quite understand it. Because when people see it, like the first thing I hear from people, will start with the Renegade, is they go, oh, it's heavier. It's like, it's not heavier, hold it. And then once they, it just, the look of it and the feel of it and the solidness of it makes them think that way. The reason why I like the Renegade is because it kicks like a 20 gauge even though it's a 12 gauge. That gas system makes all the difference in the world. That we shoot Bosch shot shells, so we don't really mess around when it comes to, you know, chutzpah. So we either shooting copper-plated bismuth or we're shooting tungsten with lots of powder and quick-moving loads. So talk to me about the Renegade and why that gun stands apart in the marketplace, and why, if people are considering buying a higher-end gun, because it's in the class with the Benellis and the Berettas and those competitors, why the Renegade?
So, well, a couple things. First off, it is a U.S. designed, USA made semi-automatic shotgun.
And we know you can't say that about most or all the others.
So that's one. Two, that product, as you said, it will digest and feed just about anything 3 inches and under. It'll shoot minis, it digests everything. That drive gas system that's got, you know, two gas valves in there, 2 pistons in there, just works phenomenal. It makes for a very consistent shot, whether you're shooting a heavy magnum load or you're shooting, you know, the lightest, you know, fin and feather load, you know. So it's a very soft shooting, as you said. It's very consistent. You know what you're going to get. It's repeatable, but also what's really cool, it's got the adjustability factor to it. You can adjust comes with different cheeks. It has the, you know, the spacers for changing your grip angle. It really has some really cool features on the barrels. Are all carbonitride coated, so they're very durable, very resistant to corrosion. And, you know, again, it's a well-made gun for today's day and age with the huge amount of variation that we see in loads out there.
Let me just comment on that too. When we were doing the testing on that shotgun, and as Chris was saying, high brass, low brass, it didn't matter. We had one in the range downstairs, and we were going through pallets of ammo at a time. We put over 7,000 rounds through that shotgun. We did not clean it once. Not once. We had no misfires. We had no mis-ejects. We had no issues with that firearm whatsoever. We were actually coming up to the guys on the floor saying, hey, what are you doing at lunch? You want to come down and shoot, you know? And we were just taking volunteers, just come down. You want to stay for an hour, you know, you want to shoot a couple hundred rounds, shoot a couple other rounds. You want to shoot 50, shoot 50 rounds. But yeah, it was over 7,000 rounds we put through that shotgun.
7,000 rounds.
You know, and that's big. We actually had a lot of these guns that we brought down to Brazil, you know, as they do their dove
Yeah,
hunts.
you
and
see
they
those
just
pictures.
shoot thousands of rounds a day and just harvest thousands of birds. And when we worked with some local, you know, outfitters out there that offer those kinds of shoots, they would have multiple guns because they know that competitors' guns would fail and they'd have to swap them out and clean them and whatever. And they would not need as many guns on the Savage side because they would shoot thousands of rounds in a day and it always worked every single time. And, you know, to add to that, one thing that, you know, just to kind of bring light to is this is a gas-operated gun. It's not an inertia gun, which, you know, sometimes if you don't really understand an inertia gun, it can be a little persnickety. Gas is totally repeatable.
Yeah, inertia guns actually cycles out the shell based on the kick of the gun. And inertia guns are known to kick substantially more than gas guns. Where people have, and this is something too about shooting Boss specifically too, the shotgun shells we shoot, is they burn really, really clean. And I think shooting Boss with a gas-operated gun is the perfect combination because one of the complaints people had historically about gas guns is you had to clean them more often. But as you were saying, 7,000 rounds and they didn't clean it once. So it's not the case with this gun, but that is, if you're Googling and you're out there looking, deciding whether you want inertia or gas, you're gonna see people say that it's because it's dirty, that they shy away from the gas one, but it takes so much kick off. So I think the trade-off is shooting a higher quality gun or ammunition and going with the gas, because like I said, it's a 12 gauge that shoots like a 20. And that's why I like it and why I recommend it.
For every purpose, for every path, for every soul, for every season, there's a Ram.
Legends aren't born, they're created. Introducing Impulse from Savage, the all-new American-made straight-pull bolt-action rifle. Unmatched innovation, fast reloads, maximized efficiency, repeatable accuracy. Welcome to American Straight Pull, only from Savage.
If you want to be here, it all starts here. At Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, we have the widest selection of the quality brands you love to get you outdoors. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, our friendly, knowledgeable outfitters will help you find the right products for your next trip. Shop with confidence with our low price guarantee. Plus, club members save even more on great gear with exclusive member pricing. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, voted America's best outdoor retailer.
Consistency. That's what you aim for with every practice shot. So when you're out in the field, you get that same consistency every shot. With Carlson's choke tubes, consistency is what you'll get. Our choke tubes are long-lasting, high quality, and made right here in the USA. Carlson's choke tubes, pattern tested, hunter approved. Find out more at choketube.com.
Are you anxious to get going? Knowing that the clock is ticking and time truly is the most precious commodity in the world? Then you, my friend, are in good company.
moving on to the 110, obviously the 110 is kind of the bread and butter around here. Why is the 110 so special, and why is everyone trying to copy it?
So the Model 110 was released in 1958. It is the longest continually produced bolt-action rifle in the world. And, you know, a little fun fact for everyone. Everyone asks, how did you come up with the Model 110 name? What does 110 mean? 110 is the targeted selling price for that gun in 1958. So that gun sold for $110 in 1958.
If that ain't inflation, I don't know what is.
Yeah, right?
That's funny. I wouldn't have guessed that. No. I thought it was like the 110th try or something.
Yeah, no, but what really makes, you know, that Model 110 really cool, and it's what, you know, has been copied by other manufacturers, has been there's so many attributes that make that gun accurate. You know, the first and probably the most noticeable is the barrel lock nut that's on the gun. And that barrel lock nut allows the barrel to be, you know, turned in and out of the receiver so you can set true minimum headspace. So you don't have any tolerancing that comes into effect. It is full on. You can set that tightest headspace right from the get-go, which means that cartridge is not going to bounce around in the, you know, in the chamber, and that's going to allow that bullet to go right down that barrel smooth. You know, another key feature of that, all of our barrels are button rifled, which we feel is the most accurate process for that. And it's obviously demonstrated for decades now. But also, you know, what we can't lose sight of is, you know, we have a floating bolt head, which if you know anything about firearms or machining anything, you have a bolt this long, you got the bolt head, it's got two locking lugs on it. And if the ones that are one piece, they seem like, oh, it's better quality, it's one piece. I don't disagree that it seems like it's made out of one piece of steel, which is great, but you're never going to allow both of those locking lugs to meet up on the locking lugs of the receiver.
Right.
Because if it's all one piece, it doesn't give any. So you're only going to be grabbing on one set of those lugs, and probably only on one point. Our floating bolt head allows it to float, so you're guaranteed full engagement on both sides of those lugs, which is pretty amazing.
And you got to really see that today when you put your bolt together, right? With that washer that went in there, that also helps to allow that flow.
Right. Yeah, it was fascinating.
So that's a pretty big significant factor. And then, you know, obviously without saying, you know, last year we celebrated the 20th anniversary for Savage AccuTrigger, which has just revolutionized the whole industry and the rifle market of having a user-adjustable trigger that's extremely safe and is adjustable down to 1.5 pounds. It's just awesome.
Which is what I set mine at. Yeah, with that too, the AccuTrigger is really interesting. For those of you who don't know what it is, you should know. Basically, it's, I guess you would say, like a floating trigger, where it's like you're holding the first part and you're moving that, because a lot of people, especially when they're first learning to shoot, it's like they can jump the trigger, or they yank it, or they pull it, and this helps you get that smoothness down by like squeezing the initial AccuTrigger itself till you get to the trigger itself. You should be surprised when a rifle goes off, and it really enables that for the person. It's like,
it's almost like a two-stage trigger, if you will. Right?
Yeah.
That Accu release has to be depressed all the way before the trigger will engage, and it won't, unless the Accu release is fully depressed, it won't let the sear go, so the firing pin goes. So you can't drop it, right? And it won't fire on its own. Which also allows us to bring the trigger weight down, right? We can get down to 1.5 pounds, 2.5 pound trigger,
right?
Instead of the 6 pound, 6.5 pound triggers that were the standard years ago.
100%. So, okay, now assessing that entire situation, when people think of Savage, I like to say it's kind of like the Chevrolet of guns, because you guys do have your Corvettes, your Renegades, your 110s, like the guns that we made today are like the Corvettes. But you guys also have your Malibus and your smaller vehicles that are less expensive. And if people walk into a Walmart, or they walk into a Bass Pro, or they open up a magazine on Black Friday and they see all these discounted guns, and you're seeing guns floating in the price range of $200 to $500, what are those Savages? Why are those special? And if someone is looking for a budget gun, why choose Savage in that regard?
So, as you walked around through this plant today, we don't discriminate. every single gun is made with the same level of quality, the same level of dedication and commitment by all of our employees. So, you know, quite frankly, the only thing that adds to the price of a Savage are the feature sets, right? Obviously, as you know, you talked about the Ultralite, the Elite, the stocks and some of the other furniture that's put on there is quite expensive to put on, so it adds to the price. But if you look at the core technology, you know, we don't discriminate. The barrels are made the same, the actions are made the same, so everything is put together in the same fashion. You know, our products are to be just as, they should have the same aesthetics, the same durability, the same performance, and the same functionality, regardless of which gun you buy.
So you're safer getting under the Savage brand and going with a less expensive gun if you're trying to hit that budget point. Why handguns? Why now? Talk to me about those, because I personally, I have right now the Stance is my carry gun, and I have a 1911, and I want to shake people to hold the 1911 because of the quality difference and the features that are jammed into that Stance for that price point. I don't think people understand the value.
Yeah, sure, no, that's great. I mean, you know, again, Savage made handguns back in the 1908 model. They made a 1915. They made a 1917. And then under the Stevens brand, they had like a Model 10, which was like a 22 plinking gun.
Right.
Handgun. So Savage was in the handgun business 100 years ago. And we decided to get back into the handgun business because, quite frankly, we felt there was an opportunity for us to take the same level of quality, innovation, feature-rich product and offer it to the consumer where they can get a lot of value add, a lot of customized feature sets for a really good price point, but also it allows them to really get more for their money. And we think we really did a great job. You know, the Stance has been a great product for us. It's done really well. It's made with stainless steel components. Even though it looks black, it's all melanited and coated. So all the components are made of the highest quality steels, stainless steel components. It really carries well. It's super accurate. You can have interchangeable grips with that. You can change the grips out. It's not a serialized part. The chassis is much like other product. So it gives the opportunity for people to change back straps and whatnot. The 1911 is really, you know, that's something that's it's something else, but we had a pretty high bar, you know, to cross over, right? Because there's a lot of 1911s out there. How do you differentiate yourself? And the way we differentiated ourselves at this is we went after what would we do when we buy a 1911 from another, you know, brand X.
Sure.
We take it, we rip it apart, we put this on, we put that on, we make it all cool, and they're like, okay, well, why wouldn't we just do that from the factory?
Right.
You know, going with a Series 70 trigger group is great. You know, going with, you know, having everything made from forgings, right? You know, the slide is a forged part. The actual grip or the frame is forged. You know, the actual barrels are made out of 416 stainless steel. So you look at all that. The trigger parts, everything is machined. There's no MIM in it. It's just a great product. Got the ambi safety on it. You look at every feature set on it, and from afar, it kind of looks like every other 1911. It's a 1911, but when anyone who's ever shot a 1911 and actually shoots a 1911, you pick that up and you shoot it and you get it. You understand right when you grab it, and you totally understand after you put 2 or 3 shots downrange.
100%. It's so comfortable. The kick on it is minute. It's so solid. I mean,
they look beautiful.
Yeah, they're kind of gorgeous. So I have the black top and like the bluish grip.
Yeah.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I guess if there was something that you wanted people to know, I know we've talked about the Savage difference. We've talked about the different products, especially at the different price points. But if there's anything I'd always hear from my dad, it was always about the barrels. And I had heard from you, you're like, it's not just the barrels. There's a bunch of other processes that make the barrel shine as much as they do. But these carbon barrels and the different barrels in the factory, talk to me about why people know that Savage barrels are the best and why so many other gun manufacturers lean on you guys for barrels. Why is that?
Well, I think it's, there's certain core competencies that we've kind of, focused on over the years. And yes, barrels is a key one. I mean, we make our barrels, right?
Yeah.
So we focus on that. Obviously there's some trade secrets that we have that make our barrels the way they are. But, at the end of the day, we take pride in our barrels of what we make. We take pride in everything that we make, quite frankly. But, the barrels are something that's, near and dear to our heart. And it's something that, we've built this brand on.
When people see the carbon barrels, talk to me about the reason for the carbon.
Sure. So, the carbon barrels are, we partnered with Proof Research on those barrels. And, they're a great partner of ours. And actually, the beauty about the carbon wrap barrels is that you're able to make for a much thinner barrel, but at the same token, the carbon fiber keeps the strength and the integrity in that barrel. And it's also, the carbon fiber helps dissipate some of that heat so the barrel stays cooler.
So it helps dissipate heat. It looks really cool, and it really cuts down on weight.
Exactly.
Yeah, what you do too is you're not losing that rigidity you would get off a heavy metal barrel, right? But you're decreasing the weight, and you're still keeping that rigidity of a heavy barrel.
Right. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for having us in here today, letting us walk around, letting us get to meet everybody, seeing so many people that were so passionate about the brand and everything like that. Do you have any questions before we wrapped up, Ray?
When can we come back?
Yeah. They're going to come to us. We're going to take you guys hunting and bow fishing next.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Well, listen, we really enjoyed having you guys.
Thank you.
We hope you had a good time and you learned something.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see, people in the industry that are just as passionate about, our products, but just the industry in general. So, so I agree with Wayne. Thanks for coming. We appreciate you having me.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in to the Greenway Outdoors podcast. You can find this podcast and all the others on YouTube and Carbon TV. If you want to watch it and see our ugly faces instead of just hearing it on iTunes or Google Play. And in addition to that, our TV show is streaming on History Channel right now. Just search the Greenway Outdoors. You can also find those episodes on Tubi, Roku, as well as Carbon TV. Now, our next season is going to come out in October of this year. In addition to that, go to thegreenwayoutdoors.com for our 24 how-to videos per year, as well as our weekly vlog. Thanks so much for tuning in, and stay green.
I'd like to formally apologize if the sound isn't the greatest. I pushed to do the podcast out on the floor.
How do you not do it on the floor?
Awesome. So if there's any problems, I apologize. It's my fault.
He better fix it. Thank you.
Bye.
That was awesome. Thank you.